Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Elise. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are here to do a much belated wrap up. Like always, I went into this not knowing how many books we're going to talk about, so I will add them up at the end and let you know. But it has been a while since I've done a wrap up, and we have a good amount of books to discuss. Also, Big has joined us here today. Look at that lovely boy. So we'll see how long he sticks around for, because we're going to be seated for a while. So let's go ahead and start getting into the books. Like always, we're going to talk about the books in the order that I read them, but we will be leaving all of the books I have read in vlogs till the end. So that way, if you've already watched those vlogs and don't want to hear about them anymore, you can be done. So firstly, we're going to start off with a book that is technically vlog adjacent, but I didn't really read it for a vlog, and that is Of Cattle and Men by Paula Maia. This is translated, by Zoe Perry, and it's published by Charco Press. And I read this because I did in a vlog read On Earth as It Is Beneath by her. Same translator, same publisher. On Earth as It Is Beneath is a prequel to this, so I immediately went into Of Cattle and Men afterwards. So I actually read this second in the series. This story is about a group of men, although we are in the perspective of just one of them, who work at a slaughterhouse, and we're getting to see their experiences there, sort of like depravity and desensitization that happens, and really the impacts of the slaughterhouse on the land. I think this book is really trying to speak about human impact on a landscape, and almost that like we can curse a landscape with our evil doings, if I put it that way. And I thought it was great. I think this is such a good comp to Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bastarrica, which that book I was slightly disappointed in. I think Of Cattle and Men is better. It's doing a very similar thing. So I would really recommend it if you liked Tender is the Flesh, or even if you didn't and you want something that has the same feel but is maybe written a little bit better, sorry to say. Yeah, that was Of Cattle and Men. It is dark, but it is a novella, so I think it's contained and that's useful. I had no issue reading this one second and reading On Earth as It Is Beneath first. So if you want to experiment with the order that you read them in, I say go for it. Next up, I read a very popular book, and that is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Who is this even published by? I have no idea. This is published by Ballantine Books. And if you haven't heard about this, I don't know where you've been. I read this because I had some friends purchase it for me because they loved it and they knew the movie was coming out and they wanted me to read it. So I did, in fact, read it before the movie came out, and I have since seen it. We'll talk about that too. But Project Hail Mary, if you don't know, is about a man who wakes up in space. He has amnesia. He is a scientist and discovers that like he knows about science and finds out that he's a scientist and that he is on a mission to save Earth, and happens to be the only member of his crew that has survived the trip into space. And we go on a space adventure from there. I get why this book is so popular. I think it's really well crafted. I think it hits the emotional beats that it is trying to hit. I think it's funny and accessible. And overall, I enjoyed it. For me, this is not a favorite book of the year. I know it's so many people's favorite books, but it's just honestly like it's too commercial for me. And that is truly just a personal preference that I walk away feeling like, yeah, that was good. That was well written. Enjoyed it. But it doesn't do anything like spectacular for me. So enjoyed it, would highly recommend it. Get why so many people love it. I did walk away from the book thinking that I would like the movie better. I tend to have a bigger emotional response to a film than a book, partially because of like the visual element, the auditory element, all those types of things, like the soundtrack of it all. And that is the case. I liked the movie even better than the book. I think the movie was really spectacular. So that is Project Hail Mary. Next up, we have a nonfiction book about economics called In This Economy, How Money and Markets Really Work. This is by Kyla Scanlon, whom I like. She is a content creator, and I've seen a number of interviews with her before, so I already knew I liked her and wanted to pick up her book. This is published by Ebury Edge, and I think it mostly accomplishes what the author is trying to do. I personally think her YouTube content is better than the book. The book was trying to cram in one too many things, in my opinion, and she just doesn't go into enough depth on any of the things that she's talking about for my preference. And therefore I prefer her YouTube content because she's like picking one topic and doing like 30 minutes on it. So if you are really wanting just the most basic primer on the global economy, but also a strong focus on the US economy, work and function, and all of the parts that go into an economy, like the stock market and the GDP. Like if you want to know that on a very basic level, this could be a good fit for you. I would highly recommend reading it physically though, because there are a lot of additional like graphs and information that are in the physical book that you would miss out on if you listened to the audiobook. But yeah, I just wanted more depth from this, but I think Kyla Scanlon is a very intelligent economist. She has a very accessible way of talking about things and still got some things out of this. So that is In This Economy. Next up, we have the buddy read from hell. That's an exaggeration, but this was a buddy read that I felt like I was trapped in for so long because I just could not finish it. Actually, I have some of these books and I'm not showing you any of them. I have this book. Let me grab it. It is The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. I don't know. I'm going with that. This one is published by Doubleday. And oh my God. Okay, again, I know this is so beloved, and I can also see why people like this. This was rough for me. I think I was reading for this like well over a month, and not because that's what this book needed from me, because I was struggling. So this book is taking place in the 1700s in Maine. So like in the early days of the colonies in the US. We're following Martha Ballard, who is a midwife. She gets ensnared in this murder investigation because as a midwife, she's called upon to examine a dead body that's found in the river. And she quickly realizes that this person has died from a hanging. And then a doctor is brought in from the city, and the doctor says that it was clearly an accidental death and he drowned. Martha feels like she needs to uncover the truth because she knows the doctor is lying. And we go on a story from there. And this for me was just so unbelievable. This I think again is like this is too commercial for me, and I think it has helped me uncover that part of why I say I don't like historical fiction is because I don't like commercial historical fiction. It doesn't work for me. Things are looked at with rose-colored glasses, in my opinion, and it really bothers me. Living in this time period is fairly horrific. It had a ton of challenges, and I just feel like it glamorizes the 1700s, and we find this woman with like the perfect husband, like unbelievably perfect husband, a wonderful family. She has a very successful career and has a moral compass that cannot be moved. And it's just stuff like that where like the package all together, I'm like, okay. So yeah, this has a mystery to it. I think the back half of this book is much better than the first half, but this was like kind of a little bit of a fail for me. So that is The Frozen River. Apologies to the person that I buddy read this with, because not only did I take forever, I ended up not liking it very much and was roasting it. So there's that. Next up, we have another nonfiction book, which is Daughters of the Bamboo Grove by Barbara Demick. And this is published by Random House, Penguin Random House. And this one I really enjoyed. I read Nothing to Envy by Barbara Demick years and years and years ago now and absolutely loved it. I have been wanting to pick up another book by her. And this one felt the most similar to Nothing to Envy, in that we're following very personal narratives to explore a larger issue, a larger political issue, which is what I think she does really well. And in this one, we're following the personal story of these two twins who were separated at birth in order to better understand the one-child policy in China, which was a staple of the communist government for such a long time and was only like fairly recently removed. And I learned so much. I learned so much about the impact that this policy had on a nation and the impact that it's still having on today, the horrific injustices that people face with having their children stolen from them by the government, with, you know, the US's complicity with having the like white savior complex aspect of adopting a bunch of these children and not really asking enough questions. Truly a story that is more unbelievable than fiction in a lot of ways, but I think held really gently and carefully by Barbara Demick. And she's just a journalist that I really love. I think she shows a lot of compassion towards her subjects and a lot of respect and thoughtfulness around the implications of writing about them. And I think tries to navigate that carefully. So yeah, really enjoyed this. This was up for, oh God, the Women's Prize for Nonfiction. I don't believe it got shortlisted, but it was longlisted and would definitely recommend. I think it's fantastic. Next up, we have a book I loved. I loved this book. I also have this one. It is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This is published by Grove. And Lily King is one of the authors that I picked this year to read multiple books from. So I'm trying to get to those authors, make sure I stay on track. So I picked up Writers and Lovers because I want to read Heart the Lover, and that is a somewhat prequel / sequel to this. And oh my God, I love this. I was starting to question if I had done the right thing by picking Lily King, because I've never read from her before, but I own multiple of her books. And I just felt like she would be an author for me. And I was starting to question, I was like, why did I do that? Why? Like, what led me to believe that? Girl, I was right. I love this. It was 5 stars for me. We're following our narrator. What is her name? Cassie. She's 31 years old and she wants to be a writer. She's working on her first book and she's also a waitress. And she's just in a place where she feels really lost and depressed and struggling to find her way out of this hole that she feels like she's in. We also get some love interests orbiting her. And I do think in some ways the love interests represent these like metaphors for paths you can take in your life. We get a lot of conversations around choosing a creative career versus maybe a more corporate career, and some of the choices that you really have to consider when you do that. It gets to some really interesting like friendship dynamics. I think people don't talk enough about the impact that class has on friendships, and we see a lot of that in this book. And really the shining star for this is just Cassie is such a well-written, voicey character. She felt extremely believable to me and like someone whose head I want to be in. And that is far and away the easiest entry point to me loving a novel, is if I feel like there's a character that like I just find interesting and I want to know more about them. I will happily follow them anywhere, and I felt that way about Cassie. So this was amazing. I'm so excited to pick up Heart the Lover now. And then I think the other one that I own is Euphoria. So really excited that this ended up being the banger that I thought it was going to be. Such a good addition into this like 30-something-year-old woman coming of age novel that has been really popular over the last decade, and I loved it. So that is Writers and Lovers. Those are the books that were not in vlogs. So now let's quickly talk about the 4 books that have come out in vlogs already. First one being On Earth as It Is Beneath. So we're coming back to this one by Paula Maia, translated by Zoe Perry and published by Charco Press. This was really interesting. This has been nominated not only for the Republic of Consciousness Prize, which is the vlog that I read it for, but also for the International Booker Prize. and it is about a penal colony where our protagonist has arrived and the horrors that are going on at this penal colony. And I talked about this in the vlog, but this book to me is all about these like internal moral hierarchies that we create and how we use those to justify our behavior, whether that's doing something egregious or being complicit in something or committing a crime, right? Like we all have these internal moral hierarchies. They need to be examined, right? Like they can't be done in silos, or you can find ways to justify almost anything. And I thought this book did a really good job of exploring that in a short amount of time. It's also very plotty, so there's a lot going on and it will capture your attention. So I enjoyed that one. Next up, the other one for the Republic of Consciousness Prize that I have finished, at least that's come out in vlogs, is Small Scale Sinners. I have this one too. Let me grab it. So Small Scale Sinners by Mareen Sohail. This is published by A Public Space Books. This cover, fave. It's my fave that I've read so far this year, I think. And it's a short story collection that I adored. This was also 5 stars. I think it's spectacular. The book does say that it's tackling this central question of what it means to be good. That is fascinating in its own right, and I think there's a lot to explore in this collection through that. What I think really stands out about this collection is hold on, I need to readjust. I'm old and everything's hurting. Okay, we'll see how long this lasts. I'm kind of perched on my knees. But what was I saying about this? Oh, the thing that I really think shines about this book is the way that it talks about human connection and the changes that happen throughout a relationship over time, whether that's a short amount of time or a long amount of time. And I felt like this was so beautifully rendered. It articulated a lot of things that I myself have felt about friendships and relationships with my family, relationships with my neighbors, relationships with my sibling. It just tackles a lot of different types of relationships and the ways that grief and loss show up in them in big ways and small. It's just like something touched me very deeply about this, and I could absolutely relate to it. Even if the content was not something that I've experienced, the feelings were definitely something that I have experienced, and I loved it for that. So I would really recommend this if you like these like slice of life short stories that are more about the feelings maybe than the content. So that is Small Scale Sinners. And then we had my latest Now or Never vlog, and I finished 2 books for that. The first one being Devil House by Darnielle. This one is published by MCD, by FSG. And this book is really interesting. I think overall it had some flaws for me, mainly in the formatting and the vast amount of POVs and connections that you need to keep track of. But this book is raising some extremely interesting questions that I loved exploring and want to explore more. And some of those are, I think this book is tackling what are the implications, what are the consequences of writing a story at all, and particularly of writing something that is classified as nonfiction. Can you ever really write something that is purely true? And is the impact of writing something and calling it truth worth all the cost and collateral damage that it is going to have for everyone involved? So really fascinating stuff. So if you have other books that are writing about those questions, please leave me your recommendations down below, because I would very much want to get to them. So that is Devil House. Oh, and I guess I should say the actual plot of this book is we're following an author who purchases a house where a murder was committed because he's going to write about it for his next book, and we're getting him interviewing people for it and exploring locations that are involved, that type of thing. And then lastly, which is good for my back because it's dying over here. We have Brood by Jackie Polzin. This is also by Doubleday. I read a few books by Doubleday this month. And this is about an unnamed narrator who is raising 4 chickens in the aftermath of a miscarriage that she has had. And this is another book that I think didn't really equal success for me as a reader. I think the writing on a sentence level was beautiful, but the work as a whole didn't do much for me. And there are a lot of books following women in the aftermath of grief, particularly in the aftermath of losing a child, that resonated with me more than this one did. But I would say if you like the books where in the aftermath of something tragic and traumatic happening, people get really fixated on the minutia of things, then this might be a really good book for you. So that is Brood, and we will leave it at that. These were the 10 books we talked about today. Please let me know if you have read any of these, and if so, what you thought about them. And just let me know what you have been loving lately. That would be wonderful to hear. And I will see you all in the next video very soon. Bye.